Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 7 of the Capsule Cast. I am your host, DoorGuard, with my co host, Oasis, and our special guest, AxS. Go ahead and say hello, guys.
Hello, it's Oasis, your formerly undefeated captain of the league.
Everyone, I'm Macho. I'm a hybrid supporter, and on my free time, I make the tier lists and power rankings for the Capsule Cast.
So, as you can hear, we got a lot of fun going on, a lot of divisional match people in, and a lot of extra as well today. So, it should be a very fun cast. Are you guys ready then to get into match number 1?
Of course.
Yep, let's go.
Alrighty then. Match number 1, we have Royals versus Bujins. So this one stings a little bit. Our score did not go as well, but hey, gotta give it. We had our second elite of the season and second elite of the Royals with Demon King Deborah. So obviously, let's get right into this match. We had Maju versus Slug to start, kind of an all-round versus tank build. Slug manages to take Maju, but dies to an incoming Kid Buu ult. So basically still 3-on-3. Deborah comes in, takes Kid Buu after dodging another point blank Kid Buu ult. He wins 2 beam struggles against Majin Buu. Majin Buu does tag with 1 bar. Evil Buu comes in, finally finishes off Deborah after losing most his life, but at this point he's already hit elite status, partially due to Majin Buu's eternal life. Majin Buu tags back in and ults Majin Vegeta before being taken out. Evil Buu finishes off Majin Vegeta and finally dies to Mecha. Uh, and unfortunately, the dying to Mecha has ruined Mecha Frieza's stats with only 4,000. So Royals take the win. Impressive performance overall. Obviously, got to do a big one to Deborah. He had no clash, or there's not really beam clash boost yet. He seemed to have won both the ones against Majin Buu, and obviously going elite's a big thing. But I mean, even taking that out, 40k by Lord Slug, a very below average performance by Majin Vegeta with 33. And you could say it's because Deborah did all the damage, but he didn't even take out his one man. And even on the Bujin side, a lot of 30 to 40k. So overall, it was still a lot closer of a match than uh, it may have looked to be at the beginning. But man, second elite of the week or the season already, and on the same team. So Oasis, what did you think of this match?
Well, to start off with, I want to say I am thankful for our developers for not putting Deborah, Majin Vegeta on the Bujins. Sure, there is some debate over letting them be on the Bujins because, they fit the theme, yada, yada, yada. But the two elites of this season, essentially being better than all of Bujins. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Imagine if they were together with Kid Buu, Evil Buu, that team would be unstoppable. But that's why I'm so thankful. Regardless, DeBoer played his heart out this match. He was great in melee. He was great in B2s, far away, close. He has after image strikes, won 2 beam clashes. This man was on fire, couldn't be stopped. And it just seemed like Boos were just sluggish, so to speak. You had Maju, not he did his job, 40k, but he didn't push his lead far enough, or he couldn't really do that because Slug beat him. Him losing to Slug is definitely the most surprising part of this match, honestly. And then Kid Buu, only 20k. That is not what the Boojans wanted to see. That's definitely not what you wanted to see. I can assume, DoorGuard.
Yeah, I don't think
Just
anybody hitting an ult on a sliver of health is what anybody wants to see in the league.
right. Sure, it was sure Slug needed to be taken out, but that's not how you wanted him gone. Nuh-uh. And then just I don't even know. The Boojans are a scary team. That is as a fact to be sure. But to see them get eluded by Deborah, someone who could have been on their team, is not to say it's a comeuppance, but it's funny to see. That's probably the best way I can describe it. Great job, Royals, in having your two characters, Deborah and Majin Vegeta, do so well, and hopefully they'll continue to be that way throughout the rest of the season. What do you think, Macho?
I thought it was a great start to the week with an explosive first match. As a division rival to the Boojans, you love to see them go down a game, and I'm happy to see the Royals persevere. It was basically even from the first matchup, but then Deborah came out, who has struggled in the past, had the highest damage overall performance in the season thus far, which is very impressive. It seemed like towards the end, Majin Buu and Evil Buu were starting a tag game and may want to bring it back while taking out Dabura and limiting Majin Vegeta to around 40k or a little less under 40k, which he's been known to have 80k matches, which is pretty impressive. But the Royals stood strong and single-handedly destroyed Mecha Frieza's stats. He is not going to be in the All-Star game. I'll
Sad to
pass to you.
see. Sad to see.
Yeah, I would say probably one of the biggest surprises, at least for us here in the Bujins camp. We predicted Emperor Pilaf to play because they still have to get him in a few more matches here, and we weren't sure if they would go all out. Uh, and Maju technically is our worst member due to stats because he's had 2 really bad weeks, even though he's been an average 40k. So we threw him in to try to counteract a starter, but we totally were just trying to match Majin Buu with Emperor Pilaf, so missed the mark a little bit there with no Pilaf in general. But I don't think anybody could have predicted uh, Dabura, who's had a couple really bad weeks coming out and just really popping off. But there's been a lot of characters on just about every team that's had some rough weeks and some good weeks. I don't think anybody, albeit maybe 1 or 2 characters, have had just consistently horrible weeks. So can't be too surprised, but Elite is certainly a surprise if there is one.
Was he on a new build this week or no?
I think they changed one or maybe one Protara, but they've basically, I mean, for seasons and seasons, he's had the same build. They kind of mixed with it a little bit because they wanted him to use after image a lot more. So he has a little bit less key charge because it gives a negative key boost. But I mean, otherwise, he's still on his default AI for the most part. So still the Demon King Daboro, I think we all know. He's just been trying to find his footing in this new league.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right.
Yeah, crazy match. I'm happy to see Bujins lose, though. That's the most important part.
This is
Bujins
true.
losing.
Yeah, I mean, what was it last week when Earth Defenders lost to non-divisional or whatever? I think everybody in our here in West Kai Adventures over here were like, yeah, woo! Whenever
Yeah.
someone loses to a non-divisional opponent, I think everybody else gets a little happy, unfortunately. But hey, I think that's happening in every league because even though ours is kind of the group of death, there's a lot of the Kais that are still very close, and some of them, all the teams are in negative win rates, but they're still within one of each other. So it certainly is a crazy midpoint of this league so far.
Worse.
Well, you guys ready to get on to match number 2 then?
Yep, let's do it.
Alrighty then. Match number 2, our first divisional of this week. We have GT or Grand Tour versus Derp. If you see that 0 there, it is still a sad time in the Derp home camp, but a very good match overall. I would say both teams really put out a great effort. So we had Salza versus Shin Shenron, 2 Eternal Life tanks to start. Man, this one took a hot minute to get through, at least for the beginning of the match, with Sin eventually hitting Salza with a 14k ult and eventually taking him out. Kabito Kai comes in and manages to finish off Shin Shenron, but then gets taken out by Super Saiyan 3 GT Goku. GT Goku hits a 16k ult on Hercule, but Hercule decides that he is the champ and takes him out before doing a good number on Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. But Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta doesn't manage to, or GT Vegeta manages to power up, win a clash, and ults him for about 19k to finish him off. Or before getting finished off, Baby finally comes in, finishes off Hercule, actually blocks a Devil Might beam, so he still took a little bit from it, and that's where you see Devil Man's near 6,000. He actually took 6,000 off blocking it, and then after that, after transforming to Super Baby 2, finishes off Devil Man to win. So GT takes the match. Super Saiyan I misspoke earlier. Hercule actually hit Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta for about 20k. He actually hit him with 20k ults, finishing him off. So besides GT Vegeta basically doing nothing, the rest of Team GT really popped off. Shin Shenron really showing that new Defense +3 Eternal Life build is his home, and Baby Vegeta really pulling it out as well. And both teams really gave it their all. It's been a hard one for the Derp crew. I think they've really put in, and as you can see here, they way out damaged GT, but the high defense and healing just kind of took them over in the end. So, Oasis, what do you think of this divisional here?
It's heartbreaking to say the least. Once again, Derp brings a match to the last bar, just can't finish it. And I think this is the second time is with Devilman as the anchor, who faced a tank, who when talking to Fiora, seems to have a big qualm with Devilman facing tanks because, key plus two, super minus one, his damage mainly will be coming from spamming, but if you're against a tank, it's going to reduce your damage by a ton. So that matchup, that really bad matchup or counter, to say the least, has time and time again brought Derp on the verge of victory and then having them fall short. This match is no exception. Salza losing to Sin Shinron, not an expected result. I would say, even though Sin Shinron has performing well on his new build, I would have expected Salza to at least beat him or be closer to beating him when he drops off. And Supreme Kai doing average 43, we would hope he'd do more on attack plus two, but he kind of got shut out by Sin Shinron as well as GT Goku. Herc. Oh god. Herc. I love the fact that there has at least one very consistent character in the form of Herc and his B2 spam. Present Bomb doing 10k, Dynamic Messima Punch doing 9k, 10k. It's very scary stuff. And if they can get Dr. Gero to either, tank spam with full power energy wave or be very aggressive with melee, attack plus two or defense plus two, whatever, they will get a win eventually. That's for sure. But going back to GT, you definitely have to commend all their hard work they've done thus far to get back to 3-4 when they were originally 0-4, 0-3, looking pretty downwards. But the changes they've made to Sin Shenron to be Vegeta have proven to be working out for them in their favor. All that tankiness, all that spam is definitely putting them ahead of their competitors this past couple weeks. So those are my thoughts. What about you, Macho?
Well, everyone knows you hate to see Derp lose another game, but Sin kind of went off against Derp, putting Derp behind in the beginning. But one thing that I was happy to see is Kabito Kai, who's been struggling all season, put in a pretty decent performance against Sin and put in a decent performance against GT Goku, who tagged in after him. And you like to see that because Kabito Kai was considered, a top 20 character in the preseason and before in the off season because he was going off in that melee key build, but he just hasn't been doing that. Um, then you get to see the Derp was behind, but then you get to see the champ come in, and he took out the rest of GT Goku, and he absolutely demolished Vegeta. Vegeta only had 5k damage or something like that, 5k or 6k damage. It was absolutely insane, and he made it an even matchup. So it all came down to Baby Vegeta and Devilman. And surprisingly enough, Devilman came out with a decently sizable lead. And he was gonna throw a Devilmite beam, but it was blocked, which was kind of sad. So, and then Baby Vegeta just showed why he's a better character than Devilman and took him out. And another highlight I would like to draw into is that Blue Shirt Pan was not in. Blue Shirt Pan is Blue Shirt Pan, who has been absolutely dominant the time she's been in, which is 2 matches. I think she's averaged about 55 to 60k damage from being in. So watch out for Blue Shirt Pan, and now watch out for Sin Shenron on GT side. They'll be looking very exciting going into the next weeks. That's
Yeah,
it
I
for me.
think really got to commend them going from 0-4 to 3-4, and I think it just showed today they realized that Derp is a strong team, but if you bring a lot of defense plus and healing, you can just kind of stall them out because even though they were technically down 20k damage overall as a team, they still pulled out the victory by doing that, the bare minimum basically to win it. And the lack of Salza has eternal life, but I think just the lack of the staying alive long enough to utilize it just kind of ended up hitting Derp in the bad spot. And even though Devilman is a Dragon Ball character and has lower stats, he still puts in good performances. So it's been real unlucky this season. But I think, as Oasis said, they're bound to get that win. Their characters are showing up each week. They lose by like maybe a bar, so it's certainly not like they're just a non-factor this season. They just haven't quite hit that threshold. They're always down by just that one B2 basically. So fingers crossed it should be a turnaround. But congratulations GT on continuing the winning record.
I wonder how Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta will act next week because, as you saw with Herc shutting him out, we didn't get to see much of him at all. So I wonder how he will perform next week. Maybe he'll throw out more B2s, maybe he'll do more melee, who knows? But the more important thing is, what does Derp need to do to get that last bar? Because we just said it before. They have gotten to the last bar of another team time and time again. What does Derp need to do with it? What do they need to change at this point to get that final bar to get that win? That's my question.
Yeah, that's the interesting part. And I think we've maybe seen glimpses of potential changes in the general chat on the Discord by Fiora talking about how there's a lot of ways Jiro can go and a lot of ways, really Hercule and Salz are the only ones with set builds, and Supreme Kai, as long as he has attack plus, they're happy with that. So who knows what slight altercation to a Patara is needed to really get him going, because GT's shown sometimes you just have to change it a little bit and they'll be off and flying.
Or maybe not even a build change, a costume change will do.
Shout out to the blue shirt pan gang there. Well, would you guys like to get on to match number 3 then?
Yeah, let's go.
Are you ready to go then, Oasis?
Sure am.
Alrighty then. Match number 3. We have the second divisional of the week, Sentai Squad versus Cold Kingdom, or the employees versus the employers. Always a highly anticipated match every season when they go against each other, and it being a divisional just added that little extra spice this season. So certainly was another fun match going in, but the stat show was a little less enjoyable, I think, for the supporters on one side. So we had Metacooler versus Saiya Woman to start, both on relatively tank spam builds. Saiya Woman actually takes down Metacooler and gets a tag off. Cooler comes in and hits an even 16k ult on Birder and takes him out pretty quick before tagging himself. King Cold comes in, takes out Saiyaman and tags. Third form Frieza comes in and finishes off what's remaining of Saiya Woman. Then he transforms to final form, but gets finished off by his lead captain Ginyu. King Cold comes back in and hits one of the very rare times we've seen his ult due to it being a rush and him refusing to use it. And it's doing a sweet 15k to Ginyu. But then Ginyu swings back with a body change, which only does about 5k, but he changes into Nail. So Nail doing double time this week for both Namek and Sentai Squad. But even with that health boost, the Eternal Life on King Cold and all the stat reductions just wasn't quite enough. Cooler comes in and finishes off Ginyu in Nail form. So Cold take the victory. So overall, this match had some fantastic moments. We saw two very rare ultimates in Ginyu and King Cold, funny enough using it on each other as well. I think obviously it was a bit frustrating that Birder really didn't get much off, if anything, before getting taken out. But I mean, it's shown that Cold Kingdom, they had a little stumble in the preseason, and they basically, once they hit their stride, they really not dropped it since. And Raccoon may have been struggling a little bit, but he's another scary guy in the back. They're kind of looking like a full set at this point. And King Cold fixing up some of his stat blimps of the preseason or the early season with a sweet 93,000, trying to go elite himself and join some of the elites. And seeing how it's the Royals and King Cold, would have been interesting. So, Oasis, what'd you think of the second divisional of the week?
It was a doozy of a match. What can I say? Have my man come in, like you said, do double time for Sentai, but not doing very much against King Cole and Cooler. But besides that, we have Say Woman doing her standard 60k, which once again I must congratulate Sentai Squad on getting Say Woman with consistent 60k, 50k bases, and like I can only imagine the struggle of trying to figure out her build and getting her to this point, but still, fantastic work. Uh, I have to say that the turning point of this match, though, would be when King Cold hit Ginyu, I believe, his ultimate. Because that match was still very doable before that happened. And after that point, that's when everything started going downhill. People weren't hitting their B2s. Cold Kingdom was actually building up their lead, and Sentai Squad just couldn't keep up. I definitely think I keep saying King. The Cold Kingdom is a scary team because of their B2s, because of the fact they spam, and because of the fact that they can actually stay in your face and then rip open the B2 and do massive damage, which Sentai Squad did or tried to copy. Say a woman would face Inverter, obviously to a lesser degree of success since Burger only got 14 and Saiyaman only got 28k. Definitely something to keep an eye out for anyone facing Cold Kingdom next week. Just trying to outspam the spammers of Supernova, not the best idea. Okay, it was still a fun match overall. Sentai Squad was close, just barely missed it. Cooler showing why he should never be doubted. He's had some lackluster weeks beforehand. King Cole just sweeping across Sentai with his 93k. It's overall great performance by King Cole, right? Cold Kingdom.
I would say the first matchup I look at is Sailwoman and Metacooler. And Metacooler, who has had really good weeks this past week, he destroyed Mid Vegeta last week against ED, and he was the real difference maker in that match, other than the other cooler coming in that match also. So Metacooler's been quite impressive. Then Sailwoman goes, I don't care, and then just takes him out easily. So Sentai Squad have a lead. And what's really impressive about Sailwoman is her counterpart, would you say, is Videl, who both have very similar kits. But right now, Videl is like near the bottom of the league in damage, and Sailwoman's one of the top. So it's crazy to think about just how different the both of them are. The real difference maker in this match, I would say, is probably Cooler, way before everything else, because Cooler this week went off against Birder, and he did not let Birder breathe at all. But towards the middle of the match, you see Frieza versus Captain Ginyu go in, and Ginyu absolutely, I think he really did well against Frieza, and Frieza has been one of Cold Kingdom's stronger characters. So that was really impressive. And then King Cold came in, used his rare ult, and then Ginyu, a funny moment was Ginyu using his body change, going to Nail. And, the Nail form gets pretty destroyed by King Cold, and that really buffed King Cold's damage stats a lot. And I like to think as a hybrid supporter that the Nail losing that much to the Cold Kingdom may be indicative of something else that would happen later on in the week. And that's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, there was just a few moments. Say, man, definitely tried to hit an ult and it got dodged again. But overall, I think the scary part in this match will always be fighting the fact that Cold Kingdom, you don't really have one character you're worried about. It's kind of their whole squad. They're kind of a full unit and that's kind of the scariest kind of team. It's why a lot of people are scared of Bujins because, yeah, there's some standout performers, but when you know that you have to fight all four and there's not just one guy, you're going to be like, yeah, we'll just kind of wipe past him quick. It makes it a lot tougher, and I think that's where Cold Kingdom really has been getting a lot of people is they don't really have that one guy you just expect to kind of maybe do his 40. It's very rare. You expect them to do a little more since everybody seems to be on their game each week. So was certainly a fantastic effort by Sentai Squad. 2-5 is certainly still a score that they are within reason in their Kai as well, so they are certainly not out of it by any regard. Did you guys have any final remarks before moving on to match number 4?
Good on my end. Oasis?
No, I'm perfectly fine.
Alrighty then. I thought Oasis would be a little more stalling for his match, but maybe that's why he's here today. Moving on to match number 4, we have Rugrats versus Cinema. Certainly a fun match in terms of size. Both these teams are closer in actual height to each other, so finally a more fair match for the Rugrats in terms of height. So we had Garlic Jr. versus Cell Jr. to start. Jr. versus Jr., and we have an all-round build versus a tank build. Garlic actually both of them tag, so neither of them get taken out. They both kind of do their bit, tag out. Turles comes in and takes out Cyberman, but gets taken out by the Demon Child Aurelie after taking a clean 15k Aurelie ult. Aurelie then takes out Gogeta, but gets finished off by the returning Garlic Jr. Kid Trunks comes in and finishes off Garlic Jr. and Zangief, leading to the win for Rugrats. So overall was it was a lot closer of a match than I think people may have thought. But at the same time, it was always going to be a wishy-washy. Who knows what'll happen? Both teams have characters that kind of some weeks are on their point, some weeks are not, and I would definitely say there was a very good showing by both squads. And talking with some of the supporters on both teams, there were characters that really stepped up a lot more than they thought, and characters that maybe didn't. But I mean, as we can see here, damage-wise, besides maybe Gogeta, who kind of got the tough card of having to deal with the mostly full health Rayleigh, kind of had to suck up most of the B2s until someone else could dish it out. I think everybody did a pretty good job here. Obviously, coming down to ults in some cases, and Rugrats actually hitting theirs. Sometimes that's all that's needed to give your team the advantage, and sometimes you get that little lead, and that's just too much. But good job by Cinema. Congratulations on Rugrats to the win. So, Oasis, what do you think of this match here?
All I can say is oh yes, Aurelie and Kid Trunks. Sounds like a win to me. We have essentially two androids versus Cinema, who hasn't been the most consistent lately. But Gogeta has been showing up in previous matches. I was hoping he would too. He would do the same thing here, pop off, use more Big Bang Kamehamehas, super explosive ways, etc., etc. But Aurelie just shut him down. It was not even fair. With her pings, she didn't use rock throw with her melee. Gogeta didn't even have a chance to show his stuff. It was unfortunate to be perfectly honest. And then you have Kid Trunks. Sure, he was closing essentially for Zangief and tagged out Garlic. But Kid Trunks did what we all expect him to. He cleaned up his man, and then he cleaned up Cell Jr.'s mess from before. So I mean, he did exactly what he needed to do with his Eternal Life build, and took them the match. Now I want to make a point in saying Cell Jr. did better than I thought he did, and probably better than what Rugrats thought he would do. Because if you talk to their coach, Toshiro, he would tell you that Cell Jr. is terrible in the starting slot, terrible point guard. But he essentially went even with Garlic Jr. at the beginning melee. He did even with him in melee, did even with him in B2s, and I'm not sure they changed anything on Cell Jr. or maybe it was just the matchup. But look into this and see if you can make Cell Jr. a tad bit better. Maybe switch one Pretora off of him. Maybe put him in the second slot. I don't know. But it looks like they have him finally locked down. And what they've had in the previous matches. And Cyberman doing better than one could ever expect, as a Cyberman can. He did 33K. Last week he did, almost 40. And what the Rugrats did with this character is definitely impressive, since we didn't expect him to do anything. In fact, we expected him to be, Goldo or early Piccolo tier. Here he is doing, a standards character's worth job. Carlos popping off. Carlos is probably, I would say, the best character on cinema. Would you? How would y'all agree with me on that or no?
I'd probably go Fasha over Turles,
Yeah.
It's
but it's
kind of
close.
even. Yeah, they both kind of do their numbers. They're both tank spammers meant to just stay in as long as they can and do as much as they can.
Exactly. I mean, Turles doing it from the B2 side and Fasha doing it from the melee side. I would say that Turles is better than Fasha just because he tags and gets power body once he transforms. But that's besides the point. Regardless, he still did 54K, led his team, tried to get the victory, but was let down at the end by Gogeta, and Zengaia's performance versus Kid Trunks was commendable. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I felt like Zengaya going almost even with Kid Trunks is very, very commendable. Overall, just good show from Rugrats, good show from Cinema. Rayleigh and Trunks, a very powerful duo that is going to be a large hurdle for many to get over in the next coming weeks.
To piggyback off of what Oasis was saying, I think it's not just Cell Jr., but Rugrats' biggest problem is that they have a lot of great characters, but none of them have been known for starting or great starters. As you can see, you always want to really to tag in with that savior to do that heavy damage. Kid Trunks usually comes in better late with his defense build. And it just seems like as a roster, a lot of them, you have a lot of closers and people, but it's whether to debate whether they want who they want to send in because not a lot of them are good starters. But coming into the match, both teams were going 3-3, so you know it's probably going to be a good one. Garlic and Cell Jr. started off, and Cell Jr. put in a decent performance, definitely better than past performances as he's been pretty abysmal this season. So it's good to see from him. Aureli and Turles were both the MVPs of their respective teams, and Aureli pretty much, even though Turles gave Cinema a lead, Aureli became a wink addition because she took out both Turles and Gogeta, who are considered the two more impressive characters in the Cinema lineup. And then it came down to the end where Zengaya was looking solid, and it was against Kid Trunks. So you're cheering on Zengaya. She's looking great, but I think I would argue because of her bad kit, even though she had control of the fight for like what it seemed like a good 30, 45 seconds, it took Trunks like half that time or 15 seconds to catch up. Which it kind of shows that, man, Zengaya, it's a little sad to see that she has very little going for her in respects to her kit, but she put in a decent performance. It was very admirable, and a very exciting match overall. Back to you, DoorGuard.
Yeah, certainly was a lot better time for Zangaya than I think we've seen in previous weeks with the limit as we have talked about. I mean, Gogeta threw out a couple B2s that just got dodged. Aurelia doing Demon Child things. There's not really a lot more that can be said here besides both teams have a lot to build upon from this, and they certainly saw a lot of good from this match. So, you guys ready to get on to match number 5?
I would like to make a quick note before we go. Before this match, Cyberman was averaged 60K the last two matches Cyberman was in. So he's been looking quite impressive before this match. So don't ever doubt my man Cyberman.
The Bean Boy making his coming. Do you have any final remarks then, Oasis?
I sure don't.
Alrighty then, let us get onto match number 5. Another fun match for the week. Earth Defenders versus Androids, two teams people have been seeing as quite solid contenders. So to start this one off, we had 17 versus Super Saiyan Mid Vegeta, kind of a super build versus a melee build. Mid Vegeta actually takes out 17 kind of handily, and that kind of lead there is kind of what stays throughout the rest of the match. Cell comes in and actually hits him with a 17k ult and eventually takes him down, but just kind of loses a little bit too much in the process. And my bad, Vegeta takes out Cell as well. And then poor old Android 16 has to finish him off with just a grab, but an 8k grab nonetheless. Yamcha comes in, finishes off Android 16, even hits a 13k ult in the middle there. And then 19 comes in, finishes off Yamcha, and Krillin comes in and finishes off 19. So a three-man performance this week. Mid Vegeta pulling up 86k, 87 just about. Very strong performance by him. He was honestly a character people were starting to lose faith in for Earth Defenders. He's been falling off a lot. And Krillin's stats are not from him starting and doing bad, but from showing up late and not having much left to fight for. Definitely was, as Donut would say, a unfortunate match by his squad. 17 basically doing nothing to mid Vegeta. And not even like hitting any B2s is just very, very rough. 16 and 19 certainly put in work, and Cell also dropped the ball. The fact that Mivd took out 17 and Cell as fast as he did was that's just horrifying to see. And I think for both of my co-commentators this week, it is not a pleasant thing to see another character on Earth Defenders going, hey, TN does some cool stuff, let me copy that. So quite a terrifying performance by Earth Defenders, but an unfortunate match for the androids. Oasis, what do you think of this match?
Oh, I was screaming internally as I was watching this match. It was an okay match. Sure, it was one-sided, so it wasn't the best matches, but it was still a match, I guess. Not, if you can really even call it that. Uh, but no, as you were saying about Mid Vegeta, I am now scared. I'm very scared of ED, as anyone should be, with the fact Yamcha works, Vegeta works, Tien works, Goku works when he wants to. I, oh my goodness, why is ED so good, so strong, with the fact that you have Mid Vegeta with his Rush Blast, you have Mid Goku with his ultimates, Tien can tank, Yamcha can tank and melee. The team's so solid right now. Sure, they're 4-3. That doesn't even matter. It's not really indicative of the power that is behind their team. And it's proven in the fact that Mid Vegeta beat Cell. He beat Cell so handedly. This is not to be taken lightly, because Cell is essentially used to be probably the best character in the league about 2 seasons prior. So to see him take it routed that handily by a character is unbelievable. Same with 17. Both of them used to carry androids for a majority of their seasons. This match left me speechless, to say the least. The 16 not even being able to catch their team up is unbelievable. I was sure this would be a lot closer of a match because of the fact that androids would be more in the face of ED. But I guess Android's weakness really is strong melee. That's mainly what Earth Defenders is. Strong melee and Krillin, now Mid Vegeta and Yamcha and Tien mixes in B2s. So just eye opener. Huge eye opener. What do you think, Macho?
Nothing too much to say. Just a shocking loss for the androids, since they had probably debatably their strongest lineup out, since Super 17's been kind of their problem child, especially before the Dirt match, where Super 17 had a decent match. But it's surprising that a lineup like that for the android just went down, and quite a horrifying performance from Mid Vegeta, who has been struggling the past 2 weeks, only getting about 20 to 30k. Against, like I said before, Metacooler, and I forget the other one, but he also had a bad performance then. But he just took out 2 of the stronger androids characters, and the strongest in Cell. And then you see Yamcha come in, and you were like, okay, you still have 16 and 19 in the back. Maybe androids can mount a comeback. But Yamcha also, put down the pressure, and there is no way of coming back. And it was really dominant showing from ED. who is right now in the bottom of West Kai, but that just shows you how destructive the entirety of West Kai is. And man, it's gonna be a very interesting divisional when we have to face them. You don't know what's gonna happen, but it's gonna be exciting. Back to you,
Oh, I
DoorGuard.
feel that so much.
Speaking of divisional, we beat ED, so good luck, guys. We are 2-0 in our divisionals, so we have scraped by what we can and just got to hold on to what we got in the Bujins camp. But I mean, let's do clarify a little bit. I don't think anybody is horribly surprised that Earth Defenders won. It was just the fact that TN or Mid Goku, I forget who, didn't even have to step on the field. It was the fact that Androids basically lost to 2 guys because Krillin barely lost much before finishing off 19. So they just had such a big lead that I don't think that was expected out of all the ways Androids could lose the match. That was not the way people were expecting it to go. But a loss is still a loss, and they certainly still put some stuff out there. It just I think that initial lead was just way too much to come back from, and as they showed, they made a minor comeback, but yeah, you kind of have to have a pretty intense tag game to truly make a comeback of that proportion. And I mean, Bujins tried it against Royals and it didn't really work at all. So even then, it's a theory, a game theory.
Oh,
Thanks for watching.
No, I'm just messing. Do you guys have any other things you want to go over then on the ED Androids match?
Well, one thing I would like to point out, I myself was pretty surprised Androids lost because Bujins, you guys are a scary team. There are only 2 teams that beat you, Androids and Royals. So I hold Androids pretty highly because I remember quite well Bujins smacking us in the divisional. So yeah, I'm just surprised that Androids fell here, but thank God they got one loss against the Bujins.
oh, Jesus Christ. That's all
All
I
right,
gotta say.
sounds like we should move on before we give Oasis a heart attack. It was a scary match for all of us to see, to be honest.
Definitely.
Understatement.
All right, let's get on to match number 6. Then we have the Resurrected Warriors versus Budokai. 2 teams that have certainly been struggling a little bit this season, but certainly have very scary characters in their lineups. So we had Cyborg Tao versus Ader. So you already know the man that cannot lose versus the man who cannot see. We have a spam build versus a tank build. Cyborg Tao actually tags out after getting kind of slapped around a little bit by Ader, and Kid Goku comes in and finishes off his friend. Would have been fun to see an Ader ult on Don't Hurt Goku on Kid Goku, but hey, maybe another time. Then we had early Piccolo come in and tags after getting down to 1 bar. Kid Goku just going on a little bit of a rampage. 18 finally finishes off Kid Goku and tags, and Goku finishes off early Piccolo and even hits with a 15k ult on Videl, and then finishes off her as well as 18, leading to Budokai's victory. So man, Kid Goku and N Goku really made up for Cyborg Tao kind of messing up, and only one character went down for Budokai, so it was a rough week for Resurrected Warriors. Congratulations to Budokai on taking the win, but was certainly not even having to have a last character come out, having Kid Goku go 80k, and then N Goku basically finish off the rest. And because Cyborg Tao tagged, he was still just hiding away back there. So just this a terrifying performance by them, but by the 167,000 they did, they really kind of did it as efficiently as possible, not really dilly-dallying and let any healing or tank nonsense come about. Obviously, very unfortunate day for early Piccolo. He kind of just ended up taking the brunt of Kid Goku's force, and even though he tagged, it just wasn't quite enough. So, Oasis, what do you think of this match here?
All I'm thinking is that this is reason number 530 why you dropped early Piccolo. Because, I mean, from what we've seen in the Discord and what we've seen in private chats, Resurrected Warriors are trying so hard to get this man to work. He doesn't want to take his shots, doesn't want to do melee, doesn't want to tank, he doesn't want to be on the field, doesn't want to be in the league, etc., etc. So, all their efforts trying to just make this man work is commendable, but at what point do you just have to say screw it and just try something ridiculous on them because it's not working. Ultimate spam this doesn't work. Spam in general doesn't work with him. Melee is way too slow. And sure, you can slap on a tank build, but when he doesn't do anything, well, well, uh, so I just have to see. Well, I hope to see what Resurrected Warriors can come up with if they decide to keep him. Right now, it's not looking good for his future. 18 doing 40k, kind of shocking since I don't think she landed a single ult. But I mean, not that shocking. If she had, she would have done a lot more. But hey, besides the point. Videl doing 27. Yikes.
It says it
Yikes.
was up
Especially,
from last week, but we've seen her do so much more. And as we said earlier with Say a Woman, it's a little shocking. So, yeah, take that away,
exactly.
Oasis.
I was about to say that. Maybe it's time to finally put Videl on Say a Woman's build because Say a Woman, 60k, Videl, 30. Big difference. Sure, different stats wise, different AI, different. I get that. But still, it's worth a shot. Then, of course, Ader. I feel like Ader just I feel like they haven't reached the potential with Ader. Is that just me? What do y'all think about Ader?
He's very consistent. I always put him near mid tier or a little above because he's Mr. Consistent. He does his 40k, gets out of there. That's why the community likes to refer to him as he goes into the match and he does Ader and then he leaves Ader.
Yeah, I think
What about you?
he's certainly there in the consistency pool. I think he's just suffering from the league becoming much more fast paced. A lot of characters being a lot quicker and with AI changes over the seasons, firing off and dodging stuff a lot quicker. And Ader's anger is kind of carrying him a little bit with it being a explosive way style attack. But yeah, he's still keeping up with the consistency, but he's certainly not the terror that he used to be in previous leagues. But hey, if you got a character doing what they need to do, and same with 18, it's kind of just getting the rest of the group on board because hey, you need to start somewhere, and he's keeping up the Resurrected Warriors' dreams at this point.
Yeah, him and 18. But I guess it is just me, but I feel like he hasn't reached his full potential yet. Like, I feel he could be doing so much more with defense plus 3 and savior. Having that additional power body at the very start when he comes in, he could launch out an ultimate, do more damage, tank through some things, etc., etc. So hopefully they make that change on him later, and hopefully that leads to him doing 60k performances alongside 18 and carrying their team to victory. On Budokai's side, though, Kid Goku popping off surprises nobody. He was a star last season with attack plus 2 in Eternal Life. No surprise he's doing well here. And Goku. Y'all think Goku's broken? Or is that just me?
He's
I think
very coin flip.
yeah, I think he's pretty balanced because it's well known that Goku's charge rate is horrendous. It is absolutely horrible. So unless you put him on a key plus 2 launcher support fighting spirit and he's at 1 bar, he's not going to be constantly throwing out those instant kamehamehas. And even then, they will only hit for like 9 or 10,000 damage. So I think he's fine compared to what other monsters are in the league. I think Goku's all right.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know about that charge penalty on him. That's fair.
Yeah, they have
But
to have him on a key build to make him like a normal character kind of thing.
Yeah.
okay. See, there's there's Macho and DoorGuard showing my ignorance, I guess, because I sincerely thought that Engoku had a regular charge rate. And sure, I knew that instant transmission Kamehameha did little to no damage, but still, the fact that it just goes from one end of the map to the other and then poof for free, it's kind of strong, guys. Kind of strong. Overall, just Budokai is doing Budokai things. They're doing Goku things. Resurrected Warriors fix up Ader, bring out that latent energy, literally, and figuratively. Maybe we'll see some differences. Maybe we'll see some more W's. That's all from me.
Well, they've certainly had a strong start to the season, so they just have to refine that path. So, Macho, what did you think of the match here?
First off, I'd like to say, in all fairness, an early pick. He's had some good times. One of those good times was against ED, which was heavily needed. And I would like to point out the alternative for early Piccolo was Chaozu, who was looking pretty bad in the off season. So you got away with the good and the bad. Surely Piccolo looks down at sometimes, but I don't think Chaozu would have been much better. So I think it's still.
Disagree.
You disagree?
I absolutely would disagree. After working with early Piccolo for a long time, Chaozu looks way better.
I mean, that's fair. We're all subject to our own opinions. But going back to the match, this was definitely a fun one because even though this wasn't a divisional, it is there was a very well-known friendly rivalry between the supporters at Resurrected Warriors and supporters at Budokai. And so, they always like to have their own personal rivalry and see who would win coming out of this. And highlights of the match, Kid and Goku definitely went off. Kid especially just went off against Resurrected Warriors weaker characters in early Piccolo and Videl. And those two characters alone made up for Cyborg's type of lackluster performance, and they didn't even need to put in early Goku, who has been the worst character damage-wise for the league. Both Videl and early Piccolo have been struggling, and Videl, like I was saying before with Saywoman, it's surprising because Videl and Saywoman's Kid are very similar, and yet one is high tier in the league, and the other is pretty low right now. 18 and Ader both put in their decent performances. Ader did very well against Cyborg Tao, and 18 tried her best to bring it back, but they didn't really have much hope since Kid Goku just made everyone else on that team irrelevant. Back to you, DoorGuard.
Alrighty then, I think we've just about beat this horse to death. I think there's a lot of good remarks. Wace is certainly a very good view since he was the previous coach of early Piccolo, and we wish the best of luck to Resurrected Warriors on getting him whipped into game shape. A transfer is always something, new locker room, new gear. Always got to get that kind of mentality set, and it's certainly hitting him, making him have some fatigue here. So, you guys ready to get on to match number 7 then?
Oh yes, this is a big one.
Sure is.
Alrighty then. Oasis might disconnect while talking. We will find out. Match number 7, the last divisional of the week. The reason we have our guest on today, we have Namek versus Hybrids. Notable for Namek's first loss, but a pretty solid match in some regards. So we'll have to get into it then. So Tambourine versus Ultimate Gohan to start, a heavy melee focused match to begin. Ultimate actually pulling out the lead, taking out Tambourine. Nail coming in a very interesting moment, uses his super explosive wave to block a Ultimate Gohan Kamehameha. Very fun to see. Um, Goes for an ult himself and tags at 1 bar. Future comes in, finishes off Nail with a 13.5k ult. Very stylish ult, doing the job needed. Nuova comes in and eventually has to tag out with 1 bar left. And Piccolo finally finishes off Future, but the damage was kind of already done at this point from Ultimate and Future, with Super Saiyan Teen going on, coming in, and with a bit of spam, and even winning a beam clash for about 15k against Nuova ends the match right then and there. So Hybrids take the victory. With how the divisionals have been going on in this Kai, it was very surprising to see how dominant Hybrids came out, and especially for how dominant Namek's been over the league, was very surprising to see. But nobody really super dropped the ball. 20k is kind of hitting what you need to is a good basis at least for some teams, but certainly not the performances needed, especially against Hybrids. So was a tough loss to say for sure, but I mean, I think a lot of people knew it was going to happen at some point. It was just unfortunate to happen in a divisional. So, Oasis, take it away. What were your thoughts on your own match here?
Oh my goodness, it was horrible. We were already dead. But memes aside, I will admit, Namekians we did not do our homework at all. We were predicting that hybrids were weak to melee because of who they lost to previously, Sentai and Ujins.
Yes.
But unfortunately, but how it's the completely opposite of what we should have guessed. Because they were actually weak to spam. Because Bujins and their Kamehamehas are like two peas in a pod. You never see one without the other. And Sentai just spammed out Rush B2s. So because of that misstep and because of that mistake, we ended up having more melee oriented people in this match. Not to mention the fact that we had a almost guaranteed losing matchup in Gohan and Late Piccolo in that final slot. So regardless of if we did well in the first half of the match, we still essentially lost half of the late game because Team Gohan would take out Late Piccolo, no question. But this was just a bad prep work, bad game plan by Namekians. We'll try to pull it out. We'll try to fix ourselves by the time we face you, DoorGuard, next week. But just over, we did, it looked like we didn't know what we were doing. It looked like chickens without any direction, with their heads cut off. Yeah, much more than that.
All
Uh,
right,
it,
Macho, take it away. What does the hybrids got to say on this match here?
well, I like to think this might be wrong, but I like to think we did good homework on Namek when we were facing them. So when we started off, we were thinking like they're absolutely gonna start with Tambourine. He's been starting a lot, and if he's in, he's probably starting. So with Tambourine, who has a defense minus, we decided to go overkill attack on Ultimate Gohan. So we gave him a boost, so he had attack +3, and he also had quick fast attack. So his rush attacks would be a base attack 4 plus a serious boost after that for health bar lost. So we went that against a defense minus Tambourine. That seemed to work wonders. We had a great lead starting off, and then Nail came in. Ultimate Gohan kept on the pressure, and here's where it got a little interesting because we wanted a Kid to come in because we thought Nail would come in, so we would slow down the match and maybe Kid will break out that matchup. But Future then decided to come in, and he basically took out most of the entirety of all of Namek's health bars. And this is really impressive because Future Gohan, in past seasons with the Gohan's team, he was considered one of the weakest of that team, if not the weakest. And we did our research. We put him on a build we like on him with the KSA. He gets max Blastox, and he has a power up to the very limit, which gives him max power plus a boost in everything. So it's a very strong combination. And yeah, he just kind of destroyed Namek's roster. And someone we didn't really get to see too much of was Teen, and we put Teen on a Super +3 build, which is pretty absurd. So we're talking 2-bar Masenkos, which is one of Teen's scarier B2s and one of the scarier B2s of the league because it has a great AoE. It can do about 10,000 damage at base, which is pretty absurd. And we knew it was absurd, so that's why we put it in to not let Namek breathe. But yeah, and that's how the match ended up. I wish we got to see more of the Teen Super +3 because that would have been pretty fun to see. But yeah, a very good match from us, and something that hasn't been mentioned yet. But this was Namek's record-breaking match. If they won this match, they would break the record for the Dragon Ball Z League most undefeated wins consecutively. But we had to stop that, so now they're tied with, I believe, Super Saiyans and maybe Cold. I might be wrong about that though. But yeah, I'm glad we took home the dub. Back to you, DoorGuard.
Yeah, I believe it was also would have been the record for best start to a league, which I think they're also tied with. So certainly still a lot of good going on, and being 6-1 is certainly a great lead with hybrids and Bujins both being at 5-2. If Namek basically takes this as a little trip and keeps pushing forward, it'll still be very easy for them to stay up, especially with how far Earth Defenders have fallen. But they are starting to climb up again as well. So yeah, a lot can be said. Obviously, this was a quite unfortunate, but you could say Namek has two divisionals in a row, so they just had a lot on their plate to think about. I know Oasis probably has a lot more than he'd like to think about between this week and next week. So certainly a lot of moments like that, but it can't take too much away. They had no single or you know, everybody did over 10,000. They all did over 20,000. So they certainly put up a fight. It just was not quite the fight needed to take out hybrids. And interesting note, Future did 90,000 and it's got a down arrow. He's actually been pretty on fire the last few weeks. So having 90,000 be worse than normal is a little scary right now. Surprised he hasn't hit Elite just yet, but he is pushing for it. Did you have any
Yes.
more
I
remarks to
like
go?
the way I like the way you're trying to cushion the blow. Oh yeah, they put in a little fight. Sure, they only did 20K, but yeah, it was a good fight. No, DoorGuard, no. It was a thrashing. It was a stomping. It wasn't even a match. There were two people beating up green slugs. Ah, goodness gracious.
I would just like to mention that Earth Defenders also ties the record with Namek. I believe it was Earth Defenders season 9 or 8. I forget. My memory's not doing too good right now, but yeah, so they also hold the record. So shout out to Earth Defenders.
Yeah,
Who's next week?
certainly impressive by a lot of the teams to have such a good record. And hey, congratulations, Oasis. Even though this match may not be great, you still created a record of your own to hold on to as the coach of the Namek.
I mean, we'll see if that holds since, the vision of death.
Yeah, I mean hybrids are gunning for us. Luckily, we've already faced them, so you guys both have quite a bit of divisionals left to do, it seems.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we only have one left in ED as well. So I think you have one left too, DoorGuard against Namek.
Yes, we
So
play Namek
both have
this
one.
next week, and Namek has us then ED, so they've got a busy schedule ahead.
Yep. Good luck, Namek. Well,
Oh,
actually, who's Namek?
Yeah, feel free
understand.
to be 6 and like 15 somehow. It's all right.
If you do the same, I'll gladly do that.
We will have to see. Certainly is any possibility with how this league's turning out. Did you guys want to get moving on to match number 8 then, or did you have any final remarks to add on?
I'm good on my end.
I just want to make note that late piccolo kind of blows, but that's just me.
Yeah, funny enough, we for predicting this next week, we're like, are they even gonna bring late Piccolo at this point? Like, used to be terrifying. He's on an off season. Maybe losing his early form has affected his mentality. We'll have to see.
We'll see about that.
Alrighty then, let's get on to the last match of the week. Match number 8. Muscle versus Kaichu. The team of big bodies versus bigger bodies. Who would come out on top? Well, it ended up being Muscle, but getting into that, we had Super Saiyan Trunks back on his melee build versus Scouter Vegeta on his super build to start. Scouter actually managed to take out Trunks and even hit a max power mode 13,000 Gallic gun. But he went down pretty instantaneously to an incoming Bojack 12k ult. Nappa comes in and hits back with a 14k Kappa Nappa ult, and then eats a 9k Bojack ult back. But his defense build really putting in work there. And Nappa actually tags afterwards. Bojack comes in and even or Bojack transforms, but eventually gets taken out by Raditz. 13 finishes off Raditz and even finishes off the last bar of Nappa and transforms himself and takes on King Vegeta, who also transforms. 13 finally gets taken down by Ape King Vegeta, but him being on his last bar going into Roshi, Roshi was able to just take him down. Though he did bounce off him with a Rush B2, so some funny moments there. So Roshi did not get stomped. He just simply did not have a lot left to take out on King Vegeta. But, this was an exciting match. Obviously, was unfortunate that Raditz had another bad week. But, he's had his good weeks as well. So, but it's unfortunate. Bojack finally hitting his stride. 13 keeping the stride he finally found last week. I would definitely say one of the most surprising moments was the coin flip character that is Scouter Vegeta taking out probably the main threat of Super Trunks. So that was certainly a big surprise. But overall, I think this was a great way to end the week. They both really put all out on the field, and Muscle was just able to take it in the end. So tying their score both at 3 and 4. Oasis, what do you think of this match?
Yeah, definitely a nice, I don't know, detox of a match to send us on our way. I was definitely surprised that Super Trunks lost to Scouter Vegeta. Never would have guessed it, honestly. And sure, Scouter Vegeta was immediately taken out. But with how aggressive Super Trunks is, how odd of a starter Scouter Vegeta is, I would have suspected Trunks would have had the advantage. But what do I know, apparently? Raditz doing what Raditz does at 7k damage. I mean, what can we say about that? Bojack doing a lot better. Bojack and Android 13. 13 getting his stride back after his match with us, honestly, and has continued that forward versus his match with Kaiju. And Bojack spamming, spam B2s, just spamming in general. Oh boy, doing 72 versus Kaiju. It was a sight to behold. All those flashing lights. Definitely, but whatever they just did to Bojack to change him up, keep that. Roshi not doing much, but that's why he's one of their weaker characters, even though they don't really have a weak character, because Roshi with after him a strike can still be a threat on the field. And then you have Nappa, King of Vegeta, great defensive walls, great tanks who spam B2s to get their damage off. So yeah, overall, just good job by Kaiju, or good job by Muscle, good job by Kaiju. Ads could be better. How would y'all fix Raditz? Like, what would y'all do with Raditz to make him a bit better?
Well, over in
Well,
the
I'm
Bujin's pool, we are a firm believer of more active stats over passive stats. So the lots of key and stuff is just not quite what we aim for. But then again, we don't have B1s, so we can't really rely on that as something to do. What were you gonna say there, Macho?
Well, I talk to the Kaiju supporters a lot. We are some of them are together with me in the JFL, so we like to talk about our subjective teams. But Raditz, he used to be really good on a pure melee build. That used to be his go-to build, and I think that was his preseason build, which he performed admirably, very well. Recently, they've been trying to get him onto a key and defense build, and that hasn't seemed to be working too well. But what happened to the melee build was that he was doing great, but then he just fell apart for 2 weeks straight, and they had to switch it up. So you never know. Maybe they need to test out AI, for the future once the season's over, or for each selective build, or who knows? Because he's just really inconsistent on whenever build you put on him.
He might be a character like a Sentai Squad style character where his build's just going to have to be adaptive as the season goes on because of his temperamental attitude. So, just seems to be a few people like that in the league, as we have seen with Birder, Android 13, just to name a few.
Mhm.
Sword
But it
Trunks.
seems like,
Sword
I'm sorry.
Trunks.
But it does seem like once they find that build, the specific build, they do extremely well. Just wonder what shape and form Riot's build would turn out to be. No. What are your thoughts, Macho? What do you think?
Well, a quick note before I go into the match. A very interesting off-season development that happened was uh, these teams, us hybrids, Cinema and Muscle, were talking about a trade, and this trade would be Future Gohan going to Cinema, Garlic Jr. going to Muscle, and then us getting Super Trunks. So, and at the time, Future Gohan was very untested, and you don't know what was gonna happen to him. So you look at all the stats now and see what's happening now. It's very interesting to think, man, if that trade would have happened, what would the league be like now? Would have been extremely interesting. But back to the Muscle versus Kaiju match. MVPs for the Muscle side were Bojack and 13, who have both struggled heavily this season. 13, though, had a good week last week, but Bojack has been terrible all season, which is very un-Bojack of him. Bojack, as you know, has been pretty okay and was one of probably the biggest factor of Gohan's winning season 7. So you hate to see Bojack struggling, but it's good to see him have a good week this week. Kaiju did pretty well overall. Scouter taking out Super Trunks very low was very good to see from him, especially since he is definitely No, turn of the cards. What is he gonna be? Because for a while he was either will he do 9K or will he do 90K? It was kind of ridiculous. But now he just was solid. He took out his man and he did very well. And then Nappa putting in work and King Vegeta putting in decent work. They all did fine. It was more or less Raditz that really dropped the ball damage wise for the team. But it is what it is. So back to you, DoorGuard.
Yeah, I don't think there's really much else to say besides it's kind of terrifying to see Bojack back to his old spamming ways. Are you guys ready to get onto the power rankings then?
Yep.
Yep, I'm ready.
Alrighty then, on to the power rankings. So, something special we can do with the power rankings this week is I don't have to explain what they are. We actually have the creator of the power rankings here with us today in Macho. So, would you like to do just a quick overview of kind of how you come up with the power rankings and what they stand for?
Yep. So when it comes to power rankings, I always do it in order. I first go tier list and then power rankings, and that's what the numbers spot next to the rankings have to do with. The tier list itself includes quite a variety of issues. It includes character base stats, how powerful the base character is, how they perform with certain AI. A lot of it comes from the actual character stats, as you'll see, and also character matchups and who they had to fight. And then after that, I tally up all the character rankings, and those are the numbers you see next to you. And then then I look at team stats. I look at overall damage, and then I look at the perceived difficulty of the schedule and what the teams have to face. And the number and the record also has to play, like how many wins they have, what how many losses do they have, and other than that, that's basically what the power rankings boil down to. And I have a lot of fun doing it. It's nice to do on my free time, and it seems to get a lot of people interested for the coming weeks. So I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, it's certainly been a great segment to add. A lot of people very much enjoy it and look for it. And if you want to see it earlier, it does come out before the podcast on the Discord. So the link is again down below. So please check it out. You'll get to see everything early in terms of the tier list and power rankings. But some notable moves, obviously, Namek moving down. Funny enough, the 175 is still a pretty good score, so they may have moved down a few spots, but that's still pretty up there. But just about everybody's numbers went up, where in week 6 everybody's numbers went down. So certainly a lot of change going on there, and even some teams that like Rugrats, they won this week and they actually went down. So sometimes having characters just not perform as fantastic as they did from one week to another can drop your team. So power rankings, as said before, are very interesting because they're more of a snapshot in time, kind of how teams are performing at this point. So certainly very fun, though. What do you think of the power rankings for this week, Oasis?
I definitely feel like they captured the league as it stands right now fairly accurately. I just want to make mention that the Royals jumped up significantly this time around, going from 8th to 3rd because of the board's performance. And understandably so, they have two elite performers who essentially can carry games by themselves. Prime versus Muscle, a highly explosive team, and Deborah versus Bujin's probably the number one team in the league. So seeing them at that number 3 spot makes perfect sense. Sure, Rugrats dropped a little bit, but them struggling versus Cinema makes it doubts their power just a little bit, makes people doubt their power just a little bit. So I understand the drop there. Uh, and and the Android dropping from 3rd place to 7th place, I don't think it should have been that big of a drop personally. But hey, their loss was very handed. It was a very handed loss. So overall, great tier list. My only question is, would it be possible to add in boost into the calculations, Macho? Because I feel like teams boosting versus each other, divisional or not, should affect how their score is when you calculate everything. So would that be possible for you?
It would be possible, but something I would like to argue is that every team starts off with almost this. Some teams, yes, they bought maps and they bought music, but most of the teams started off with the same amount of boosts. So when it comes down to the end of the season, boosts would most likely even out for most teams. So I don't think it would be a huge factor, but I could definitely add it in. It could definitely play a small factor in later weeks.
Well, Boojins are a team that believe boosts actually hurt the team, so you'll have to keep in mind some teams are terrified of boosts, where other teams like Nimic are willing to use them in non-divisionals. So it really is a different philosophy. You might almost need to get a statement from every team to get a better idea. So maybe something fun we can do as a project in the postseason is what teams think of boosts, because there's certainly a lot that comes into that in changing builds during the season.
Exactly. I mean, in fact, it's really because of the Boojins. I do mention this because the fact that the Boojins are so high up on the tier list and don't even use boosts really show how strong of a team they are in comparison to everyone else in the league. Versus, my team who's willing to use boosts in non-divisionals kind of shows how not weak per se, but not as strong as like say Boojins who don't use boosts or hybrids or royals who don't use boost as much. They don't use as much Zenny as Namek has as far. If that makes sense. I feel like that should reflect maybe a little bit in the power rankings.
But
Yeah, since I made the power rankings, will go over constructive criticism I've received about the power rankings. Since I know I've done it, I know where everyone was. But just to go over some things, Rugrats dropping, even though a win, it's mostly because Earth Defenders and Royals, who were below them, had such huge wins. Earth Defenders beating the number 3 team in Androids pretty handily, moved them up quite a bit, and Royals beating the number 1 team in Boojins moved them up quite a bit. So it's not that Rugrats performed bad; it's that other teams moved up better because of their competition. And another constructive criticism I've received out is Budokai. I think Budokai is a very solid team, but I feel that GT deserve their spot because if you look at how the teams are getting their wins, Budokai has had their wins spread out. Like they haven't been consistently, win, loss. They've been scattered throughout. But GT, they were on a 4-game losing streak, and now they're on a 3-game winning streak. So they're a hot team. So I think that propels them over Budokai because like DoorGuard said, it's a snapshot, and GT is right now lightning hot with a three game winning streak. So those are the few problems I've got from my power rankings. But so I just like to address them quickly. But other than that, I'm happy with how the power rankings came out as I usually am.
yeah, I mean, I don't have much else to say. Are you guys ready to go on to the tier list?
Sure.
All
Yeah.
right, so the tier list, as explained, does take a lot of stats into it, but at the same time is still something that's more for fun. That's why it's not like F through S tier, but it has some more funny names. With number 1 being Mudgeon Vegeta right now. But there's a lot of movement that's gone on. Pretty much all of Bujin's still just sitting in the damn near All Stars. But hey, can't ask for much. A lot more people have actually moved down. It's a couple different early Piccolo really drop in. Some more people kind of floating around in Goldo's different collegiate courses here. A couple people have fallen and can't get up. So yeah, again, another fun build to check out, and some surprising movement from a few people. But overall, I think it's just this one is a little bit more opinionated for the enjoyment of a tier list than based on super hard stats.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh my goodness. Google's Arc.
Dude,
Macho, how
Nail is in. I mean, you aren't mid tier.
Yeah,
right?
that's
How
what I just like staying creative for the first thing before I do anything than making tiers. I make the names for the tiers. I like making creative, making it fresh. Because if it was just doing the same old numbers, it would get kind of boring. So I always like to see what pops in my head, what funny DBZ League related thing I can put up. And Gildo is having a very successful chain of many businesses and courses. So I wouldn't doubt that man. He may be off of DBZ League, but he's making the bread.
Yeah, who knows if we'll see a return this upcoming season. Certainly a lot of teams have joked about it, but You know, maybe there's a buff in his future, maybe there isn't. There's a lot always being talked about, and seeing as how we've already modded characters in the league, it's not possible to mod him more. I believe he actually had a -4 defense and was modded to a -2, so future is uncertain there.
Mhm.
I would like to mention I am a human. I make errors. There is two characters on this list right now who I am not satisfied where they're placed. The first character is Scouter Vegeta. I think he deserves to move up a tier after looking back at the stats, and I definitely think he should move up. And Bojack should definitely, even though he struggled and his overall stats are lacking, he should definitely be for slow clap for the week since he had a pretty great performance this week. So those are just I'm human. I make errors. Those are two of the things that stood out. That I'm like, yeah, I could have done better. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with how it came out. And the names are funny, so everything looked like it was peachy.
Alrighty then, are you guys ready to get into the prediction segment?
Absolutely.
I believe
Yep.
this is Oasis' favorite segment, so of course happy to get a move on. Alrighty then, I have the updated schedule up here. We finally broke the curse, by the way, of match 8, being that the home team always loses with Muscle winning, so a little sad there. But getting on to match number 1, we have Rugrats versus Derp. I'm going to have to give it to Rugrats. It's nothing against Derp, but they're a relatively good team, so they probably won't have too many evil characters for Devilman. And even with they have a lot of clash. So a lot of them like to take clash boosts. So even the champ is gonna have a hard time if he goes for too many dynamic mess him up punches. So I'm gonna have to say that's gonna give Rugrats the edge here.
If Rugrats have a Raleigh, and Trunks, Rugrats win. No doubt about that. I'll go with the Rugrats.
Think Rugrats are a very tough team to hit, and which is probably be a bad thing for Derp, except for the champ, since he has a unblockable, disruptive B2 and them good old present bombs. But I like to look at who's coming in, and Goten is coming back in for Rugrats, so we're probably looking at a Kid Trunks bench for them. But even then, the Rugrats are very scary when it comes down to that, and Derp will probably have to, since they had two divisionals recently, they're probably going to have to drop a good character for them for the rest of the schedule. So it's probably going to Rugrats.
Alrighty then, we have 3-0 for Rugrats. On to match number 2, we have Sentai versus Earth Defenders. After that trucking by the Earth Defenders, it's kind of hard not to go with them here. Nothing against Sentai. I think they'll put up a good match, but Earth Defenders are kind of on a scary roll right now, so kind of have to slide it under to them.
Personally, I hope Sentai wins this. I'll vote for Sentai.
Amen to that.
Exactly. It seems like ED does lose to spam, just like a little bit. So if Sentai decides to spam the Rush B2s and stays out of melee conflicts, they definitely have a great shot taking out ED.
Yeah, I will. I also want Sentai to win. I think all of us agree. We all want Sentai to win. All us West Kaiers. But I will have to give it to ED. Mid Goku coming back in, and Jace coming back in for Sentai. Jace has been struggling, and ED was on a tear against androids. They've been pretty inconsistent when it comes to individual performances. Like I said before, with Mid Vegeta having some bad weeks and having some good weeks. But I think ED will just pull out this one, and yeah, going to ED.
All right, so we got 3-0 ED with hope for Sentai. Moving on to match number 3, we have Androids versus GT. I'm gonna have to give this one to GT. I feel like they've just been a bit more on a roll, and Androids seem to get a character working, then they break. Then they get them working, then a different character breaks. So just as an engine, and especially the blue shirt Pan coming back in, I think GT just have a little more consistency behind them right now. So I'm gonna give it to the Grand Tour.
I give it to the androids because they're at home. Sure, GT has been on fire recently, but let's not doubt the androids now. Sure, they got beat by ED. That doesn't make them any less strong, weaker of a team than before. They still have 17, they still have 16 in, and while Super 17 isn't their best character, He still has a super +2 ult up his sleeve, a fire off whenever he feels like it, and that could really turn the match towards their favor. So I'm willing to give it to androids.
Well, it's 1-1. Looks like it's up to me. Something I like to point out is that androids are very known to bounce back. Like they had a bad loss against Muscle, but then they bounced back and had a great win against Cold. Both of which are pretty good teams. So I think this is definitely going to be an androids bounce back week for them since they just had a hard loss to ED. Though I gotta give GT credit, they are white hot right now and they've looked very impressive recently. But I'll give this match to the androids.
Alrighty then, so we got 2 for androids, 1 for GT. Moving on to match number 4, we have the Royals versus Cold Kingdom. Man, this one was kind of a hard one to say, but I think I'm going to have to edge it over to Cold. I think they're a little more all-round together. Royals seem to have been getting a little carried by single player performances, and then having a character kind of falter, where Cold kind of has like a full team of people doing well. So I think that that might be the edge needed to take out a Royals team, especially with Pilaf coming back in. So giving this one to Cold.
I probably have to agree with you. Regardless if Deborah or Majin Vegeta are in, Cole just has the ability to keep them both at bay. And with that being said, if Cole can just spam projectiles for as long as they can, then Royals will have no chance of doing damage to them and no chance of getting that victory. So Cold win all day.
I'll have to disagree. Cold, of course, is a very strong unit. If you look at the stats, Cold has the highest overall damage for all their characters, so a very impressive team. But I think the unpredictability and the powerful damage output from few Royals characters might make up the difference. Majin Vegeta may be out this week, but if he isn't, you'll see him go off. Mecha will definitely be in since he was out against us. So I think it will be a pretty strong showing from Royals, and I think they had the potential to do it. If I were to guess the Royals sub, it would probably be Deborah to sub him out now and have him in for later. But yeah, I have Royals. I think their explosive damage output would get the win.
So certainly a very close vote, but a very narrow one at 2-1. So moving on to match number 5, we have Resurrected Warriors versus Cinema. With Fasha coming back in, I think I might have to give the edge to Cinema. Zangaya finally coming online. Garlic Jr. keeping relatively consistent. Turles always doing his job. And even though Gogeta struggled against Rayleigh, she did dodge some point blank Big Bang Kamehamehas. So I think overall Cinema has just that slight edge. But Resurrect Warriors are a very strong team. I wouldn't take too much away from them because they could easily have early Piccolo out if they feel that's the weak point. But I'm giving it to Team Cinema.
I would have to agree with you there. Team Cinema with Foch coming back in, definitely going to be a sight to behold and just a wall that Resurrected Warriors I don't think will be able to climb over. Even if they have early Piccolo in, they have too many problems, too many kinks to work out right now to beat Cinema. Sure, Cinema has a couple of kinks themselves, but with two very strong core members in Fasha and Turles, depending if they bench one or the other or bench Turles, I think Cinema has the best shot of winning this, better shot of winning this over Resurrected Warriors.
Um, if you've noticed from the stat spreadsheet, Resurrect Order has bench their two best characters, and Vegeta and 18 twice already in 4 consecutive weeks, and they've been waiting to unleash them both together for 4 weeks, and I think this might finally be the week where they do that. So I think that would be quite exciting. So I think the unpredictability and just having N Vegeta and 18 out together might have the edge over Cinema, even though they're having Fasha back in. I think RW will take it this week.
Alrighty then, so we have another 2-1 Cinema to Resurrected Warriors. Moving on to match number 6, the highly anticipated single divisional of the week. Me versus Oasis in an IRL boxing match. So I've been training. Oh no, it's Namek versus Bujins. My bad. I'm gonna have to obviously go with my own team in Bujins. But if I were to have a defense, I would say the power rankings be damned.
I would go for Bujins. any day of the week. Sure, my team's in the match, but I don't care. Boojins are scary. Boojins are disgusting. Evil Boo does so much damage. If he's in, of course. I hope he's not in. But if he is, uh,
It's a
let
division he's in, buddy.
I
He's
let a man dream. But Boojins are most likely going to win. Our biggest flaw is Namek's biggest flaw is they lose to spam, as Future Gohan adequately proved. So, since Boojins is that and more, what are the Namekians going to do? So, Boojins got this.
I would have to go Boojins. They are still a strong team, and they're my number one team on the power rankings for a reason. I find them. They're both very similar styles. They both have very complete teams with very few weaknesses. Like you can say, there really isn't a bad character on either team. Like they all do decent. But then you look at other teams, like my team, like Hybrids. We have Sword Trunks, and Sword Trunks is pretty terrible, and he derps a lot. So I like to think of these two as the same type of team, but the Boojins doing better. And one factor that is trumps everything I just said is that Boojins are an away team in match 6, and that is undefeated thus far in the season. So that's the biggest factor. They're a away team in match 6. So next, it's Boojins.
Alrighty then, yeah, match sixes still have the away teams being the winning teams, and we won our against ED as away as well. So some karma or some superstition may be flowing along there. So on to match number 7, we have Muscle versus Budokai. Certainly another anticipated match. I think this one will be a pretty big slobber knocker. I'm kind of gonna have to give it to Budokai. I think, and it's not just due to last week, but I mean, they just have had a pretty solid footing in the league recently, and Muscle may be starting to find their footing as well, but it's still shaky. They're still getting back in. And since Broly and Trunks have been fighting for similar Pataras, it'll be interesting to see how they manage that. So, but I'm gonna have to give the slight edge to Budokai here.
Yeah, I would give it to Muscle. Personally, sure, Trunks and Broly have been fighting for the same Pretorius for the past 2-3 weeks now. But it seems like Trunks can function very well on Attack Plus or Super Plus. Regardless of which one they go for, you're still going to see an impressive performance from either one. Now, if they go Defense +2 on Broly, maybe not. uh, Overall, I think Muscle has the overall advantage in damage, team comp, teamwork, etc. We'll see though.
This is definitely a statement match for Muscle, in my opinion. They have beaten very strong opinion competition before, but they have folded other weeks. So if they win this, I think Muscle will start showing up as a real threat if they beat Budokai here. Budokai is a very strong team. They did very well against RW this week, but I think Muscle might take this. And if they do, they're gonna really start showing up on people's radars as a big threat for the league.
Alrighty then, a contentious match to say the least, going 2-1 again. So, moving on to the final match of the week, match number 8, Kaiju versus Hybrids. So the Pure Bloods versus the Half Bloods. Certainly an interesting match and a fun one in that aspect. So, I'm gonna have to give it to Hybrids. It is at the home at the Kaiju map, so they will have that. But unfortunately, Hybrids is a B2 Beam build instead of a B2 Rush team. And with Future basically hitting near elite every week, it's just going to be quite a scary time. So I'm going to have to give the edge to Hybrids here.
Same here. Just Future Gohan being able to cut through Power Body if they do transform, plus having two B2s that are beams, is going to make it a tough time for Kaiju to ever lay a hand on him. Not to mention that they have Team Gohan in, same deal. Especially if he transforms to Super Saiyan 2. Although I have a sneaking suspicion he's going to be benched this week. Or him or Kid Gohan. But regardless, Hybrids have a strong comp. Sure, Sword Trunks hasn't been the best character in the league, but it seems like Hybrids have 4 other people to make up for his damage. So I think it's easy to say Hybrids got this.
Hybrid supporter, so of course I have bias, but I like to point out we're doing something. We're mixing it up. We're doing something very unexpected, and it's gonna be quite interesting to see how the match turns out. You can never emphasize enough kaiju at a home map. There's a possibility where you might see four apes, and I think a big factor going in kaiju's favor against us is that if you look at the subs recently, they have not subbed out Raditz or Scouter Vegeta yet, and uh, they subbed out Bardock 3 times, which is considered their best character, and then Nappa and King Vegeta, who are both strong characters, them twice. So if they're ready to unleash their lineup against us, maybe bench Raditz, it's gonna be a very interesting fight. So hybrid supporter, we want to win, we're gonna win, but Kaiju is going to be very interesting this week.
Yeah, certainly some interesting notes there. So, sounds like we're basically 3-0 for hybrids. Alrighty then, so that has been it for the predictions. Is there any final remarks you guys have on Capsule Cast before closing out this week?
Not really, but it's been great having you, Macho.
Thanks for having me. It was a very nice week for me. Got to explain some stuff. Got to appear on the cast, and it was a very fun week. And I hope for more fun weeks to come.
You will always be here in spirit, seeing as how we have your stats as part of it now. So you will forever live on in Capsule Cast history. But besides that, that has been week 7 of the Capsule Cast. Again, we will have links to the website and the Discord down below. Please feel free to come and say hi. We are very friendly in there. We talk about a lot of things. And there's 2 other leagues attached to us in Jump Force League and Smash Bros. League. So there's a lot in the Discord. Otherwise, I have been your host, DoorGuard, with my co host Oasis, and of course, special guest Macho. And this has been Capsule Cast.